'cause you're my home away from home, away from home, away from being alone.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Again, I want to thank all of you who have watched my most recent video and have also went back into the channel and watched my other pole shift video. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the subscriptions. Thank you to all of you hitting the like button and each and every comment. Thank you all very much. So today in this talk, we're going to kind of recap on a few of the things I mentioned in my most recent video and some other things. But you do see that I have Free Thinker pulled up in the background because after I did the video and I put it out, someone had messaged me and kind of said, you know, what do you mean by that? And I thought, you know, what do you mean? What do I mean by that? Like, how could that be a negative thing in any kind of way? And this person brought some things to my attention. So I went in, did the research, and I started looking. And I said, you know, well, when you look it up this way, it does have a tendency, or it kind of leans to the attitude of putting it in a negative light, kind of linking it to some more negative types of events and things that have happened in our history. So I thought, you know, kind of why would that be? But of course, I know all of you watching, you know what I meant, you know what I mean by that. And you know, I don't mean it in any kind of a dogma type of way or any kind of negative way. It's just simply stating that we don't always need to be kind of brought down smaller by a certain criteria and a way things may be set up around our surroundings. Because if one has faith enough in yourself and of God Most High, because in my belief, that is what I truly believe. Now, is that saying that I believe or think that individuals cannot accomplish this in their own kind of tailored way? Yes, it is possible. And that's kind of just what I'm simply stating. But if you want to, I guess, poke and prod at anything and then go over it with a fine-tooth comb, it could be spun out in a million different perspectives. So in a nutshell, it's kind of any and everything that you say can get spun. And that's what really got me to thinking, because that's what I try to make these videos about. That's why I try to open dialogue with you guys out there and let you know that it is okay to conversate about things. It's okay to conversate about strange things, you know, or weird occurrences, because they're happening. And a lot of you watching, you know that. You know, just because you're told something may not make it the truth. You may know that what you're experiencing seems more to be the truth, and is most certainly your truth. But what I'm also finding in way of research, and I've been onto this, like I said, for many of years, and what I've discovered is all of these years prior were just kind of preparing me and leading me up to what I'm seeing in a catastrophic level. And, you know, I have the privilege to have something like a social media platform, or that brought me to an even wider audience and brought me to people in my physical life, my personal life, in leading into these conversations where I am the type of person that I love to hear what other people have to say. I'm absolutely fascinated by that. And I am one of those people that I will sit and listen to you for hours. And I will question you on some things, maybe to provoke you to keep going. But in a nutshell, I love to hear about the human experience. And what I have found in the recent years is there seems to be a lot more people who are having the same like experiences. And now any research I've done, again, is just my opinion. It's just my truth. It's things that I've uncovered and I've kind of correlated and they fit together. Now that doesn't make it everyone else's truth as well. So I just want to clarify that all the same. So what I promised in the prior video is we were going to get more in depth on some conversations and topic that are going to lean more so toward the esoteric realm. So just forewarning, disclaimer, if that's something you're not comfortable with, then, you may want to consider that because things may get a bit wacky in this conversation, but hopefully balanced enough that it's going to keep you grounded and it's not going to get you perpetually thinking outside of your frame of, like what's your limit. So that's not the end goal here, but every and anything is to get your wheels turning and maybe to consider other perspectives, consider other options or alternatives. So no better place to start than with this definition in the dictionary. This made me curious when I got those comments. So let's see how it is kind of presented to us in this way. Okay, so this is from the dictionary, free thinker, a person who rejects accepted opinions, especially those concerning religious belief. That I don't know. Maybe I am just all the way around a free thinker because the way that definition is set up, to me, possibly people could read into that as being someone being kind of like a rebel rouser or rebellious because you're rejecting the common narrative. You're rejecting the mainstream objective is kind of like what that rings. But also when it says, and it ties in religious belief. Because you can have free-flowing thought and kind of your own way of gathering conclusions with your free will and in the way you're wanting to arrive to that in many of other areas in life besides religion. So those are just kind of a couple things I noticed. But let's go down here. We're going to read some other ones. Okay, so let's see what the Merriam-Webster says. And then we're just going to go through this and we're going to jump right into some other stuff. So don't you worry. Make sure you stay with me here because it's going to get a little more wild. A person who thinks freely or independently. One who forms opinions on the basis of reason independently of authority. Okay, now that's a little better how that is presented. But no, especially one who rejects or is skeptical of religious dogma. So being a free thinker is directly linked to religion, which I'm a little shocked by that. I'm surprised. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I leave your opinions in the comments. I would like to know. Do you think that's kind of a fair analysis? Or, let me know here. I don't know. I don't know why exactly it would be linked just to that. All right, so let's look. Where else did I pull up? Okay, we looked at that one. Had some others already pulled up. Okay, free thought. Unorthodox attitudes or beliefs, specifically 18th century deism. Okay, so I've just recently in the past few years even heard the terminology deism. So for those of you that may not know, I pulled that up as well. Deism, or whatever that says, derived from the Latin duos, meaning God. is a philosophical position and rationalistic theology. So again, tying free thought to religious dogma and religion. So that's interesting. That generally rejects revelation as a source of divine knowledge. Well, that's interesting because I don't reject revelation at all. And asserts that empirical reason and observation of the natural world are exclusively logical, reliable, and sufficient to determine the existence of a supreme being. Okay. And I find it fascinating too because a lot of our founding fathers of America were deists. That was their practice and their preference of belief when they were utilizing their free thinking, their free thought. I would like to think, or always kind of like to think, that free thought was connected to your free will. But in this light, like the more, it's very easy that one could read into that maybe being a bad thing, maybe that being going against the status quo per se. But again, let me know what you think in the comments, because I really would like to hear from someone else and their opinion on this. Maybe it's just really petty that I even brought all that up and noticed it, but hey, if it wasn't brought to me, I mean, who knows? I still would have been free thinking and getting it wrong and not knowing what I was saying. So, all right. Now, on to the juicy stuff. All right. So, in the last video, we were talking about these little guys right here. In a nutshell, because there's so many pathways we could take here, so many different diverse perspectives on just nanoparticles. So you can see what's pulled up on the screen. So what I was getting at in the last video is I was proposing, because this is nothing scientifically sound that I have found anywhere as of yet, not to say that it might not be out there, but I was proposing that what if we could compare that this mystical, magical energy that we're surrounded by, that is referenced so often as being the all, or being divine power, or energy, or even the Holy Spirit for that matter, being components of actual living energy. As they say, everything and all is energy. We're all energy. And just kind of wanting to align it in such a way and make that connection as to have it make better sense, if that makes sense. So giving you something to kind of compare to and to put it in perspective that perhaps, now this is my opinion, perhaps it's not so far-fetched, the concept of God, the concept of divine spirit, Holy Spirit, and that it possibly, again, speculation, but possibly functioning in a way that it in fact is all around us and is in fact within all of us. And it's all a matter of how you perceive that energy. It's all in the way of how you activate that energy, what you want to do with that energy. Because as we research and as we see, it's being proven, it was already proven and known in ancient times that you can utilize frequency and energy and force in that very way. Very quickly, they like to categorize things like that as alchemy, sorcery, I suppose, or whatnot. But today, we're not going to pay attention to that. We're going to use our free ability. And we're going to say, we're going to try to look at it in a different perspective. So just kind of a speculatory what if. Things would start to make sense in that way. It's more tangible. It's more achievable to know that you have these very unseen, very tiny elements that are kind of rooting for you, and they're just there, just kind of waiting for you to activate in a particular way. And then we come across something like the Bible, or even the Vedic text, or other spiritual texts out there in the world that are hinting towards this very thing. And they're trying to show you in these maybe roundabout ways, or in these advanced methods that reassures that you're ready for that type of knowledge, that things have activated within you, within your spirit, your soul, your consciousness, your brain, that it has came online, to say, in such a way that it can actually form those kind of thoughts, those kinds of questions, and to kind of journey around and play with those kind of very deep, very complex thoughts. And that's just like, that's how I kind of like to look at it. And again, many things throughout my life, throughout many years of research, I have been so sure on some things and was convinced in my way of thinking to obtain further information or to unearth new things, just for it to totally spin it on its head and say, oh, okay, I was missing that, but now I see. So all possibilities are up for a different conclusion. All possibilities are up for change, in my opinion. And there's a lot of things that work on that principle in the Bible and in all of these spiritual teachings. But I think a big thing that a lot of people should be able to agree on is that a lot of spiritual teachings, now this being teachings that revolve and have directly to do with your spirit life, your soul, and that part of us that we cannot see but we know is there. These teachings are to help you into figuring out how to activate that at its optimal potential for this dimension, for this world. And are there things along the way that can disrupt that, corrupt that, distort that? Yes. That's why it makes our spiritual journey that much more complicated and harder than a lot of people would have first thought. So we see things like the pole shift, which is very powerful energies that are going from one position, switching to another, maybe activating. Maybe they're just activating in a new way. Maybe there have always been these options and it's been this way for so long. And now it's like, well, hey, we just phased through that cosmic quantum plasma. So that's signaling us that we need to switch. We need to open things back up over here on this side. So now that that's happening, all of these new things are happening and coming online, which is causing major confusion, major fear, even though you might not know that that's what that is. So it's causing this fear because we don't know. We're entering into the unknown, things that we are not familiar with, things that have been evasive to us until this point. Just that alone is kind of freaky. It's kind of scary that you go through your life and you're looking at life one particular way, everything's fine, everything's happy-go-lucky, and all of a sudden this idea emerges that's so beyond anything that you've ever thought, that it just rattles you and it shakes you and it wakes you up in a way that it kind of fears you, because, well, you don't know the answer right off, and you can't be 100% positive like you have been before with the way systems were and everything was running. And maybe a lot of us kind of just got used to the way things were running and getting in with the groove and what have you. And now it seems to be everything is turning on its head. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just been our perspective all along. And could it have been other things too? Yes. But we're going to narrow in here, and I'm going to leave all of this up to you. You know, your ultimate conclusion is yours. If you want to look more into this, I highly suggest that you do, because it is worth looking into. Oh, and for some reason, my battery is low. So give me just one click of the button and I'll be right back. So what I propose is, what if all of these, we'll say particles, all of these very small, very unseeable particles, even in way of very strong telescope magnification, they're hard to contain, to trap, and you know, like put in a physical container and fiddle with and do what thy will with, that all of this magical substance is all around us and within us. And we'll say, you know, God tried telling us that in the Bible. He proposes that, you know, we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but we wrestle with the powers and the principalities of the air. And it's said over and over throughout the Bible. And when you go in and you step by step, or you technically break the wording of that down, you know, things that are connected with the phrase or the term power, the context, even back into ancient Greece, in Latin, in Hebrew, etc. When you chase all of these avenues down and you come to the same conclusions over and over, so you overall have this astounding understanding of what it's really being said when it's speaking of power and principalities. So you have a keen understanding of what's being talked about. So that lets you know you're not fighting the wittiness of your neighbor, the cunningness, the manipulation of your mother-in-law, even though it's so strong, it's so wicked and powerful. That's not the context. It's saying it's something outside of flesh and blood. So it's something outside of you in these unseen places that involves the air. So anywhere that the air can be. So not in solid things. So kind of like a ghost particle would travel, or these very small particles, because they can just travel through things. They can kind of go anywhere they want, through walls, through people, etc. So what if not only the divine realm knows of all of this, and our very intelligent ancient ancestors know this is what makes them so powerful and seem advanced and magical, because they had gotten to a heightened state where they had discovered this and discovered the communication from the sun, and the way the sun comes in and carries these kind of ghost particles that can obtain knowledge and deliver them to this sphere where we are. So, as if the heavens, or the sun at least, can communicate with that magical substance. Thus, if we tap into it in turn, can communicate and can decipher or have the ability to understand the messages being delivered. But it not only applying in that way, but also in a malevolent aspect. So the enemy, whoever that is, gets a hold of this information as well. They know this too. They're highly advanced. They know. Just like it shows us in the Bible, we're going to get to a particular name that gets brought up quite a bit. It's been being brought up a lot recently, and that is the Anunnaki. And they are in the Bible, and it is shown over and over through the geologists' work, through historians, through many things, that the Anunnaki were in fact real beings, and that they have an abundance of connections with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia and that whole area. So we fast forward and just consider that information I just spilled past you. And us not realizing, because we got capped at some point, our genetics, what have you, kind of squeezed that memory out. It got left out of folklore, it got hidden or destroyed, or however it happened. It could have been multiple ways. That got sidelined because individuals somewhere said, that's just too powerful of information. Then everybody's going to know, and then everybody will be equal in some kind of way, and we can't have that. So the enemy knows. So they have the ability to say, be off planet, or, just outside of the planet, or maybe in the planet. And now they know how to utilize these magical particles that all you have to be is of this world, in this place, because they're everywhere. And maybe intercepting or recoding or disrupting somehow the natural information that's coming in and kind of hijacking that. And now, the organic material may still be getting to you, but now there are new components attached to it, synthetic components. And maybe, I don't know, just a guess here, maybe they're attached to lower vibrational frequencies, because here with gravity and our resonance and everything can kind of accommodate lower frequencies better. Maybe our systems can absorb them better, or whatever the case may be. So they know this. So they're sending these messages through the air, and we're picking up on them, but we're not fully understanding that that's maybe what's happening. So now we're thinking, well, these big major downloads that I'm getting must be of a divine nature, because they're so profound and they feel so real, etc., etc. So now I must follow with this. And I'm going to get to my point here in a second, so stay with me. So now you are overwhelmingly convinced, even though you've not thoroughly investigated things like the Bible or really any kind of spiritual text that's of a profound nature. So we got to cancel that out. You're not schooled in that. You're not well versed in that. So you have no kind of heads up. And this is important because we see this happening more and more as time goes on. And this scenario keeps coming out over and over to be linked with things like aliens and Anunnaki. But not only that, super Nazi races from space, and draconian lizard people, Pleiades, and all of this. And there seems to be the same pattern over and over, convincing individuals of either their past lives, which I want to stop there very quickly. There are many spiritual teachers that will utterly warn you about tapping into this popular thing of really investing in your past lives, in really any other life that has to do outside of here. We're meant to be focused on this life here. I can barely get a grasp on what I got to handle here in this life. I mean, I don't know why people want to take on 2, 3 other, like, I don't get that, but it happens. And we're warned in many of things about karma, because that's what karma is. It's this kind of loop, or, imagine a roller coaster that just keeps going around and around, and maybe you can stop on different loops, but you can't ever really get off. You can't get off of that one and go on the water slide because you're very hot. No, because you're stuck on this roller coaster, and it may go backwards in different ways, but you really never can get off of it. So that's kind of like what karma is. And it's something, and there are many, many theories to coincide with this, and, how souls get stuck on karma and so on. But I like to look at it as like, we're here, and that's just what it is. That's the reality of it. We're here. There's nothing really you can do about past tense. So saying that too, a lot of these, what I believe are spirits, they are spirits behind this, and they are malevolent spirits, just like the Bible warns us. And they are very, very clever, because they are very ancient, yes, and they've had much time to out-clever us. I've only been on this planet for 44 years that I can account for. I'm 44 years old. So however old you are, and that's how long you've been here in this life, I could not remotely obtain as much knowledge and wittiness as an immortal being possibly could. So they have many ways to trick you and deceive you. And ultimately, even though I see the same kind of story, if not verbatim, coming out over and over with individuals, things about your past life, convincing you of something powerful perhaps you used to be, or something powerful that you're going to be. A lot of them incorporate space race. You're out in space performing these tasks. And what people are not realizing, though, is they're feeding into your ego. They're feeding into things that they know are possibly going to impress you. And while they're at it, remember, they know their way around this magical substance. And so they know how to permeate into your, we'll say, aura, your etheric field, which has these magical particles, and kind of press on those to where now you're physically manipulated, because now your mental is perceiving that this feels euphoric, this feels good, this feels right. Thus, why the Bible, why God warns us over and over of not being worldly, not being too much in the world and about the world. That involves our senses, our physical senses. Remember, our flesh is corrupted. So a lot of people get confused on this, and they don't know how to kind of rise above those emotions and those feelings. And working towards your spiritual heightening, your spiritual enlightening, and so on, involves rising your soul, rising that to your optimal power, where you know, no matter what, whatever's kind of thrown your way, these ideas, these visions, these dreams, we cannot entrust in those 100. We cannot. Because it leads you into trouble. It leads you into thinking that you need to have relations with an Anunnaki or a Naga. And trust me, I have conversed with individuals who have. We must also remember what happened before Noah's flood. That the world had gotten so corrupt, it had gotten so evil, that God had to bring down a catastrophe to just kind of level out this evilness and kind of rewrite things, get it back on a more positive trajectory. Because we had things like the fallen ones, the watchers, the Nephilim, that came down and they bred with human women. So a lot of this gets played in way of genetics too, genetic modifying or manipulation. We're going to touch on that too. We're forgetting a very important element to all of this, that God is responsible for everything. So any and everything that they, the enemy, is capable of, it's just a mere twinkle or a mere ripoff or a slice of what God has already done. It's just a knockoff. It's a synthet, what I like to call a synthet. It's a synthetic version. So we have an issue with this, and you're going to see it spun in many different ways. But it's almost to a point where a lot of people really don't even want to speak about it. Because nowadays you can get any kind of thing twisted up on you and saying, oh, well, you're aligned with this and that. So that's very unfortunate. But if you just know better, you know better. So it doesn't matter anyway. So all of this work in what you're trying to do in your spiritual journey is to transcend above all of this, where you know it's non and void. Even if you may have a vision or a dream, or maybe you've had profound prophetic prophecy, and the things have actually came true, we still must not trust that. The days of the prophecy and the prophesiers are, we had that in history. It really doesn't say anywhere in the Bible, but it does say that we're going to have many false prophets. So, one must really ponder on that. So you cannot take these very real, very convincing visions, dreams, etc. at face value and run with them. Because what's happening in a nutshell is these spirits are kind of tricking you, deceiving you out of your soul. You're making soul contracts, soul alliance, soul agreements at an astral level. And you don't realize it because you're here in the physical realm. You're not, this professional, this, esteemed occult person that just knows all of these tricks and ways and so on. So you're really unknowing of this. But I assure you that there is a complete battle happening in the spiritual realm. And it is very real. And this is where things may get confusing because this is supernatural, but yet the Bible's yes. Across the board, everything is saying, yes, 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 you are correct. There is a spiritual realm. There's no debate about that anymore. There's a spiritual realm. There's supernatural things that happen. It's all about how you entertain that and to what magical power you take hold of. And if you're not actively searching out God and, trying to build up your soul, your spirit, and wanting to reassure that you kind of have control of that, and you got it by the reins, and it's what you're deciding and so on. If you're just lazily believing anything that comes along, you're not in control of that. And especially if you've had no prior time that you've put in to learn or to really understand how building up your spiritual life even looks. I'm going to tell you now, you're not in control of that. You've given up control of that to something else, something that is not of God. Because yes, when we trickle down, we have people who are well identified and linked with those types of spirits. A lot of people like to talk about hierarchy or rich people, or we've been hearing a lot about like Hollywood and the people who run that show and this and that. And I'm not going to pretend like I know a whole lot about that, because I don't. But it did occur to me that, rather than us sitting around and complaining and whining and saying how unfair it is that rich people get to do this and they get to, well, you know what the one thing is that they have that I will say a lot of you don't? That's faith in their spirit, faith in their self, faith in their spiritual affairs. Oh, they're very dedicated and they take it very seriously, very seriously. In turn, throughout their genealogy, say it was not even them that particularly discovered it. Say it was majorly discovered 10 generations back in their family. But the ultimate secrets of the universe and these magical unseen components of the universe all of a sudden made sense to that individual. And then the light bulb went off. They got it. I just have to have faith. I have to know and not back down from that. I have to stand for something and keep going in that. I have to believe and have faith in these supernatural things, these powers that are bigger than I. And that's what that family member did. And then throughout the years, children came, offspring, and they instilled that into their family. And so it kept going and going. Now they obtain these sacred information, sacred knowledge, advanced information, which is just information and understanding that we're all entitled to. No matter if you're rich, poor, hierarchy, this or that, we're all entitled to the exact same thing that those people running the world are tapped into. But you wouldn't know, because a lot of people spend their time lazily and would rather go out and pay for it from them. You would rather go buy it and pay them to try to get these secrets from them when it's all around you the whole time. It's there for free. I often wonder, is that the power? Is that the free energy that Tesla discovered? Is this the free energy that Tesla was speaking of? That if you really were to connect with the Holy Spirit, then you would understand. Only then would you get it. But so many people settle and, quite frankly, are too lazy to go put in that little bit of effort, that sacrifice, that what seems like too hard of work, and not willing to do that for their own soul, the own good of their soul, but would rather get up every day and pay someone else, buy it from someone else, instead of discovering it for yourself. Because all the secrets of the universe, all that is hidden from you, is available to you. You just have to look for it. And what does God tell us? If you seek, you shall find. So whatever's blocking you, whatever is plaguing you, you just haven't sought out the cure for that yet. You have not sought out the way to get around that or to rise above. So yes, everything lies within you. The answers are within you. And fortunately, we've come through these changing powers all around us. It's happening. It's happening with our family, with ourselves, with everything in our lives, with the actual magnetic fields of our earth, in our solar system, it's happening everywhere. This changing of power. Things are expanding. Things are opening up that were not available before. But you best believe that the enemy has had their ducks in a row for a very, very long time. I say, and again, just my opinion from research and a lot of things I've came across in 20 plus years, I believe the things that we are going through right now, the things that we are living through, that we're experiencing, was set out on a table clear back during Queen Victoria's reign. That's how far ahead in the future they think. You can't think past today because they told you not to think past today because they got the next cure coming up. Just save a little more money and they'll bring it to you very soon. But that's how much faith they have in their God, in their beliefs, in what it is that they know. And they figured out the magic of the universe. That's there and available for everyone. Everyone. So it really is a conundrum to me, and I wrestle with this a lot. So just in the future, if you have a profound vision or something of the sort. Now, this is going to apply differently to diverse peoples. You may speak with your pastor and he informs you that he has, now this is different. Now, someone that is clearly bathed in the Holy Spirit is going to have Holy Spirit revelations. Now, think about that as well. When you're having these visions and the things that you're projecting out, the things that you're repeating and you're telling, is it promoting of things that sound like that they're of God? Or does it sound like, most definitely, if you're describing an Anunnaki, a Nazi space person, space camp thing, that's not of God. That's not a message of God. That's not being a messenger of God. So just think, the more you tap into that and the more you relay that, the further that's going to take you away from the message of God. So we really have to think in a very critical but common sense kind of way. Just keep it real. Just keep it real. Just everything. Just try to keep it as simple and as realistic as can be. Not rude, not a butthead or a D-head, but just keep it real. Keep it real with yourself. Keep it, someone asks you a question. Don't think of a big old fancy lie to sound good or look. Just keep it real. And when you do this and you get in the practice of doing this and it starts coming naturally, watch the miraculous things start to open up in your life. And I swear by it too, reading the Bible. If you get in and you start to read that, just try it. Just try it. And, just watch the magical things that start to open up in your life and around you. But you'll never know if you're putting your faith into everything else and then going around and turning around and complaining about that. it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So hopefully this put a spin on things, kind of got you thinking that there's some things that we need to pay full attention to. But there are some things that are very prevalent right now, and they sound really good. They really do. They may even make you feel powerful, intelligent, needed, heard, whatever it may be. But if you just analyze it and ask yourself some key questions, it may be something very wrong with that scenario. Are we living in crazy times? Yeah, it really does seem like that. But things may be easier to set up than what you may first think. A lot about the genetics, genetic modification and this and that. You know, God is capable of anything. That can happen naturally. You know, so say we are evolving as a human species. It wouldn't be the first time. Look at the Neanderthals, the Denisovians. Look at, I can't remember, the Clovis, I think. We've evolved before. We've evolved many a times and changed, and our DNA's mutated and so on. So, I mean, you got to think about it here. That doesn't mean if all of a sudden you feel as though you are an advanced human, you're evolving, you're like a hybrid now. And maybe it's because you're seeing it everywhere and you've been hearing about it for so many years in a very subconscious kind of way, a subliminal way, right out in your face kind of way. So after a while, you get conditioned to all the things and you're like, well, you know, I'm like that. And they're relaying it to me and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I really feel like that now. You have to stop and ask yourself, but could it be something of God? And why I'm evolving and I'm feeling more intelligent and I feel like I can comprehend things more. We're not giving God enough credit. So, all right. Well, I'm going to end the talk here. I hope I haven't confused anyone too much or jumbling around in too many things. There's like 150 other things I wanted to talk about, but we're already so deep in this video. But if you want to hear more, there's many more things I can get into and that I want to divulge with you. So go in, hit subscribe, join the channel, like this video so it can circulate, and I hope to see you guys on the next talk. Thank you so much for stopping by. Until next time, bye-bye.